Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. My name is Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. Former British and Australian Prime Ministers Johnson and Morrison visit Tel Aviv to show support for Israel. Netanyahu says there will be no ceasefire until hostages are returned. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah, tells Abbas that Palestinian Authority should play a central role in what comes next in the Gaza Strip. Russia test fires a Bulava intercontinental ballistic missile from a new strategic nuclear submarine just days after withdrawing from the CTBT. Virat Kohli hits a world record equaling 49th ODI ton on his 35th birthday. India keeps up the winning momentum, making short work of South Africa in a clash of table toppers. As the Israel-Hamas conflict deepens, the Israeli Defense Forces said that they will continue to attack key military infrastructure, weapons warehouses and operational bases in the Palestinian militant group Hamas's area that is in the Gaza Strip. Let's look at this report.
This is day 30 of the Israel-Gaza conflict. Fighting between Israeli Defense Forces and Palestinian militant group Hamas has intensified in Gaza. As this crisis deepens with each passing day, it has left the Arab world and other countries in the region anxious. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is once again in the Middle East and has held several rounds of talks with leaders of the region. Countries like Jordan and Egypt have insisted on ending hostilities in Gaza. But the US said such a pause for now would only allow Hamas to regroup and attack Israel again.
It's our view that a ceasefire now would simply leave Hamas in place, able to regroup and repeat what it did on October 7th.
Blinken, who is on his second trip to the region since Israel-Hamas conflict broke on October 7, also met with the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas in the West Bank. While Israel is fighting Hamas in Gaza, it's Hezbollah that launched strikes on the northern front of Israel bordering Lebanon. Hamas has taken more than 200 people hostage. It's been a month. Families are eagerly waiting for their loved ones. Thousands have been killed in the Israel-Gaza conflict. West Asia is on the brink of a major humanitarian crisis. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
And Amritpal Singh, our correspondent on the ground, joins us live now. Amrit, what do you make of Blinken's comments that Palestinian Authority should play a central role in what comes next in the Gaza Strip?
Mark, Antony Blinken, when he met Mahmoud Abbas today in Ramallah, he was basically trying to get him on board for two things. One, we know the differences between the Arabs, including Mahmoud Abbas, and the United States on the humanitarian situation. So it was like a carrot being offered to the to Al-Fateh, saying that if post Hamas, you could see a role for it. But clearly, the two sides did not issue a joint statement. Mahmoud Abbas did not want to be, standing next to Antony Blinken after a very small meeting means that there are differences. So in one sense, it was a carrot. It was offered to Al-Fateh, saying, well, you could take Hamas's place in Gaza as you took in West Bank. Remember, Hamas was the ones who had won the election, not Al-Fateh. Al-Fateh was way behind even, I think, Palestine Islamic Jihad in the 2006 elections. But they were more amenable to Israel, so they became the government in West Bank. Now, the second is that he is trying to, it's also an indication that, look, the decimation of Hamas is imminent. The Israelis would want to affect a regime change. It also signals that the Israelis would not want to rule Gaza themselves like they did pre-2005. They would want to install some sort of a government run by the Palestinian. And
Okay.
Al-Fateh is their best bet, both for the Americans and for the Israelis.
Okay, that's an interesting take. Amrit, what is the current status of the hostage negotiations? Netanyahu says that there can be no ceasefire until they are released.
Yes, that's true. That's what Netanyahu says. That the ceasefire, will not be there unless they release the hostages. I think their militaries, the mediations are on. Qatar is involved, the Americans are involved, the French is involved. Today, the French foreign minister was in Doha. The Hamas and the Israelis don't admit, but they are involved too, of course, through their emissaries in Qatar. But the significant is the statement of the Qatari Prime Minister saying that, well, it has become more complicated and there are complexities due to the military actions of Israel. So basically saying that Hamas has put its foot down on two things. They've asked for four things, basically. The two things that they've asked for is, one, immediate ceasefire, which the Arab countries support their demand. Second, they've asked for prisoner swap, saying we'll release hostages if you give us the Palestinian prisoners in your jails. They've asked two long-term demands, which could be, angling and shadow boxing. They're saying that lift the 17-year-old siege on Gaza, and then they are saying that stop settlements in West Bank and remove your settlements in West Bank, which I think Hamas also knows very clearly Israel is not going to do that. Israel, on the other hand, is saying ceasefire. Forget about ceasefire, a humanitarian pause. The American US Secretary of State was told very clearly, a humanitarian pause is not on the cards. Their strategy is to weaken Hamas militarily, then negotiate with a weakened Hamas, and get their people back, because they believe that a strong Hamas will only, get more out of them, and they're not at this point in time willing to concede muck.
Right, we leave it there. Thank you very much. Amritpal Singh joining us from the Israel-Lebanon border. Our next story, in a show of solidarity with Israel's fight against Hamas, the former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the former Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, they are in Tel Aviv. The two leaders also will be going to southern Gaza border towns that have been devastated by the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7. And President Katalin Novak of Hungary has also arrived in Israel on a solidarity visit. She met the Israel President Isaac Herzog. So we are seeing that Israel has getting some support, a show of solidarity. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison are in Israel. They will also be visiting parts of the areas which have been, which were affected deeply by the Hamas attack on October 7, in which 1,400 people were killed. And of course, that set off this entire conflict, and it is now almost 30 days old, this conflict, in which there is now currently a ground offensive that is on between Israel. The Israeli Defense Forces are, of course, they don't mention much of their military strategy, but the offensive is difficult because of the number of tunnels in which Hamas has their personnel in. And Hamas also says that they have a number of 40,000 soldiers who are willing to participate in the war. They're also getting support from Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad. And to talk a little more about this, especially from the Lebanese side, we are joined by Mia Alberti, our correspondent, who's joining us now from Beirut. Mia, you know, Hezbollah is using anti-aircraft missiles. So, I mean, how far have the tensions escalated in a sense?
I mean, we can say that they have escalated since Friday. That's when we heard Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah speaking, saying that Hezbollah is already involved in the conflict and that what was happening in the border since October 8th would not stay as it was, so inclining that there could be an escalation. And we have seen that. As you mentioned, Hezbollah is using a different type of weaponry. It's using surface-to-air missiles, and it's also using explosive drones. These are two elements that Hezbollah had not used before. So we see an escalation through that. We also see in the geographic expansion, we're seeing this fighting going further into not only Israeli territory, but also Lebanese territory. And on Sunday, we also saw Israeli fighters again violating airspace in Lebanon and also downing one of these drones flying while it was still flying over drone and then shelling some positions that it said belonged to Hezbollah. But the Lebanese health minister is now saying that Israel actually striked an ambulance. So a lot of accusations here, but we are seeing this escalation in the terms of the use of weaponry here in the border.
Mia, also, you know, Nasrallah had warned that the conflict could become regional. You mentioned that. But Israel's defense minister Gallant says that, you know, dragging Israel into a war with Lebanon is going to doom Lebanon's fate. So how is Prime Minister Mikati's government observing all this in Lebanon?
I mean, the government here is absolutely concerned. We have seen Najib Mikati, the prime minister, trying to, well, actually conducting international meetings with several actors. We're talking about leaders from, you know, other Arab states. We saw him on Saturday meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, in which both men said that they talked about that fear of the escalation into war coming into this expansion into war coming into Lebanon and trying to avoid that. So Mikati is doing his part. He is trying to talk with all the concerned parties. The position of the Lebanese government continues to be that they support Palestine and the Palestinian cause. They support the two-state solution, but that they are against having a war coming from their own territory. They have also said that they are going to file an official complaint against Israel for striking targets in Lebanese territory, after all, and also the violation of the airspace and maritime space as well. However, the consensus here in Lebanon is that this is not a decision that is in the hands of the Lebanese government. You know, even if Mikati tries to stop Hezbollah from, you know, entering into a full-scale war with Israel, he could try, but the consensus here is that the government and the army do not have the power to deter Hezbollah from whatever decision they make.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Mia Alberti joining us from Beirut. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Ukraine's defense minister has ordered an investigation into an alleged Russian ballistic missile attack. Australia says it is keen on bolstering partnership with China for sustainable economic growth. And India sends medicines and relief materials to earthquake-hit Nepal.
turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such change makers. Watch Change Makers on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Ukraine's defense minister has ordered an investigation into an alleged Russian ballistic missile attack on Ukrainian assault brigade after reports that more than 20 soldiers were killed during an awards ceremony. Ukraine's armed forces said that Russia attacked the Zaporizhia region with the Iskander ballistic missile. It was not clear how many soldiers died. The statements came after a flurry of earlier reports on Ukrainian social media and from military bloggers that more than 20 soldiers were killed in a village close to the front lines in Zaporizhia during an award ceremony commemorating the Artillery Day on Friday. The Russian Defense Ministry said only Russian forces inflicted fire on a unit of Ukraine's assault brigade in the region, killing up to 30 military personnel. Both Russia and Ukraine have often underestimated their military casualties in the 20-month-long war, while exaggerating the losses that they have inflicted upon each other. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that Ukraine has made excellent progress towards EU accession. She said this on Saturday, days ahead of a key report on Kiev's membership bid. Standing next to the Ukrainian president, she said that Ukraine had reached many milestones despite the war with Russia, highlighting Kiev's judicial reforms. The EU assessment due on Wednesday is expected to say how far Ukraine has advanced in fulfilling various economic, legal and other criteria to clear the way for accession talks in December. The EU's 27 members are due at a summit in December to decide whether to allow Kiev to begin accession negotiations, which would require unanimous backing.
I want to tell you how impressed we are by the reforms you've made in the midst of a war. You should never forget you are fighting an existential war, and at the same time you're deeply reforming your country. You have reached many milestones, reforming your justice system, curbing the oligarchs' grip, tackling money laundering, and much more. I know that you are in the process of completing outstanding reforms. If this happens, and I'm confident, Ukraine can reach its ambitious goal of moving to the next stage in the accession process.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has denied that the war with Russia had reached a stalemate, and he said that more work with allies was needed to strengthen air defenses. His comments come days after Ukraine's Commander-in-Chief, General Valery Zaluzhnyi, has said the conflict is moving towards a new stage of static and attritional fighting. That's a phase that could allow Moscow to rebuild its military power. Zelensky acknowledged that there has been difficulties on the war front, which is now in its 21st month, and that Kiev had yet to achieve any major successes in its counteroffensive. He added that the Israeli-Gaza war is taking away the focus from the conflict in Ukraine, accusing Russia of going forward with the invasion with that aim. Now, the Chinese Premier Lee Hsien said that China will further expand market access and imports. Addressing the opening ceremony of the annual China International Import Expo in Shanghai on Sunday, Lee Hsien said that China will promote opening up of market opportunities and remove barriers to foreign investments in manufacturing.
We will continue to promote opening up and market opportunities. We will further ease market access, implementing relevant policies such as lifting all restrictions on foreign investment in the manufacturing sector, protect the rights and interests of foreign investors in accordance with the law, and continue to create a marketization, legal, and international business environment.
The The Australian Prime Minister Albanese has touched down in the Chinese city of Shanghai for a three-day visit. With this, Albanese becomes the first Australian leader to visit China since 2016 as part of an effort to patch up relations that had deteriorated in the past few years.
Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese stressed on a bilateral relationship with China that is based on constructive engagement and dialogue. Albanese, who is the first Australian Prime Minister to visit China in 7 years, made these remarks at annual China International Import Expo in Shanghai on Sunday.
And we know that constructive economic engagement between countries helps to build relationships and helps to build understanding, both of common interests and where there are differences. And that is why the government that I lead will continue to work constructively with China. As the business people in this room understand so well, it is in all our interests to have a relationship where there is dialogue and cooperation.
Later, Albanese also addressed the local media. He welcomed Chinese Premier Lee Hsien's comments about expanding market access and imports. The Australian Trade Minister Don Farrell, who was also present during the media interactions, expressed hope that impediments on Australian seafood and red meat products to be removed.
I would expect that in a very short space of time we will find that those products are back into the Chinese market. When that will be, I can't tell you exactly, but all of the indications last night from my meeting with Wang Wentao was that it's going to be a very positive outcome.
The Australian Prime Minister's visit is part of an effort to patch up relations that had deteriorated over several years due to disputes over Chinese telecoms firm Huawei, espionage and COVID-19. Albanese is scheduled to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing on Monday, where the Prime Minister has said he will raise concerns over rising tensions in the South China Sea. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong has said that the Deputy Prime Minister, Lawrence Wong, will take over from him as the leader of the ruling party's People Action Party. That's before the next general election, which is due in November of 2025. And with the PAP widely expected to continue dominating elections, Wong is likely to become Singapore's next Prime Minister. He would be the fourth Premier to lead the Asian financial hub since its independence in 1965. Lee, who has served as Prime Minister since 2004, is the eldest son of Singapore's founding father, Lee Kuan Yew. And Lee praised Wong and his team for the handling of the COVID crisis and also said that they were increasingly setting the national agenda. In Bangladesh, a 48-hour countrywide blockade of road, rail and waterways enforced by Bangladesh's Nationalist Party and like-minded opposition parties was marked by stray incidents of violence, including clashes with the police and torching of vehicles. Banned Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami is also enforcing a 48-hour blockade, simultaneously demanding the current government's resignation and the installation of a non-party neutral administration to oversee the 12th parliamentary elections. At least 4 men of the BNP and its affiliated organizations were injured, and 5 vehicles were vandalized during a clash with police on the Bogura-Dhaka highway this morning. 27 platoons of the Border Guard Bangladesh (BGB) were deployed in Dhaka and adjoining districts to maintain law and order. The blockade that started at 6 a.m. on Sunday is expected to end at 6 p.m. on Monday. Three people from a chartered flight, they have been reported dead in a plane crash while assisting firefighters battling bushfires in Queensland. What happened is that the incident was reported on Saturday noon in McKinley, which is about 104 kilometers southeast of Cloncurry, and the 3-person crew which was on board this plane were assisting the Queensland Fire and Emergency Services in a fire mapping surveillance operation during this crash. Officials said that the families of the victims, they have been notified, while formal identification is still pending. Investigation is underway to ascertain the cause of the crash. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on the King of Bhutan, Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk, shortly after his arrival in New Delhi. Jaishankar said that India supports the vision of a sustainable transformation of Bhutan under the guidance of the King of Bhutan. The King of Bhutan is on an official visit to India from the 3rd to the 10th of November 2023. The Bhutanese king shared his experiences with Dr. S. Jaishankar about his first visit to the northeastern state of Assam. India on Sunday delivered the first consignment of emergency relief material worth 10 crore rupees to Nepal, following up on the commitment by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to provide all possible assistance as the Himalayan nation reels after a deadly earthquake killed at least 150 people. A special Indian Air Force C-130 flight transported the consignment of over 11 tons emergency relief materials, including essential medicines and medical equipment for the affected people. India's ambassador to Nepal, Naveen Srivastava, handed over the consignment to Nepal's Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister, Purna Bahadur Khadka, in the presence of the Chief Minister of Karnali, Rajkumar Sharma. Further consignments of the relief material are expected to arrive in the coming days. 3 UN agencies, they have called for protection of children and families. This is as Pakistan has started a campaign to deport foreigners who are residing illegally in that country. The UN agencies say that children face serious protection risks while on the move in Pakistan, in detention centers, crossing borders, and upon return to Afghanistan. The UNHCR, that's the UN Refugee Agency, the IOM, that's the UN Migration Agency, and UNICEF, that's the UN Children's Fund. What they're doing is they're continuing to appeal to the international community to increase support for hosting vulnerable children and families and refugees in Pakistan. This is what a press release has said, which is issued by the 3 agencies. Now, the children face risks of physical threats as well as their safety, family separation, distress, fear, abuse, as well as exploitation. And amid Pakistan's swift anti-migrant crackdown, a Taliban minister has issued a warning to Pakistan regarding the treatment of Afghan refugees fleeing, urging the neighbor to not be cruel to Afghans leaving the country. He warned that Pakistan cannot seize any assets by any rule or law, as such moves will be questioned. Currently, tens of thousands are heading to the border areas, fearing detention and deportation as Pakistan's security forces go door to door searching for undocumented foreigners. A youth delegation from Indian states of Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh called on President Draupadi Murmu at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, or the President's house, in New Delhi. The President said that the government of India is striving for the development of all citizens. It is committed to providing equal opportunities to everyone without any discrimination, and she advised them to have full faith in the country's constitution as well as democracy and fairness that it provides for everyone. These youth were in Delhi to attend the Tribal Youth Exchange Program organized by India's Ministry of Home Affairs.
भारत का इतिहास स्वर्णिम था और भविष्य उज्जवल है। हमें अपने गौरवशाली इतिहास से प्रेरणा लेते हुए स्वर्णिम भारत का निर्माण करना है। 15 नवंबर को भगवान बिरसा मुंडा की जयंती को पूरा देश जनजातीय गौरव दिवस के रूप में मनाया है। इस अवसर अपने पूर्वजों पर गौरव करने तथा उनके मूल्यों और आदर्शों को आत्मसात करते हुए भारत को मजबूत करने का अवसर है। मुझे विश्वास है कि इस कार्यक्रम द्वारा अधिक से अधिक ग्रामीण युवा भारत की समृद्धि संस्कृति के से अवगत होंगे तथा लोकतांत्रिक व्यवस्था में उनकी आस्था और गहरी होगी।
Let's take a look at other stories making the news. The Indian entertainment channel Colors has collaborated with the Ministry of Women and Child Development of India to support the Save the Girl Child, Educate the Girl Child initiative to bring societal change. Ahead of the Indian festival of Diwali, the state of West Bengal has taken a significant step towards reducing pollution by deciding to sell only green crackers with a QR code. So the crackers that are not labeled as green are illegal and are totally banned. The famous Indian sand artist Sudarshan Patnaik created a sand sculpture as the Indian cricketer Virat Kohli celebrated his birthday today. The sculpture has 35 sand bats, and the Indian cricketer turned 35 today, and he also scored a century. So still to come here on DD India News Hour. Russia tests an intercontinental ballistic missile. German foreign minister meets the Azeri president Ilham Aliyev. And prominent radio journalist in the Philippines is shot dead during a live program.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such changemakers. Watch Changemakers on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. Former British and Australian Prime Ministers Johnson and Morrison visit Tel Aviv to show support for Israel. Netanyahu says there will be no ceasefire until hostages are returned. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken meets the Palestinian President Abbas in Ramallah, tells Abbas that Palestinian Authority should play a central role in what comes next in the Gaza Strip. Russia test fires a Bulava intercontinental ballistic missile from a new strategic nuclear submarine just days after withdrawing from the CTBT. Russia's new strategic nuclear submarine, the Imperator Alexander III, carried out a successful test launch of the Bulava ballistic missile. Well, this missile, which was launched from an underwater position in the White Sea off Russia's northern coast, hit a target thousands of kilometers away on the Kamchatka Peninsula in the Russian Far East. Let's look at this report.
In the midst of its ongoing over-year-long conflict with Ukraine, Russia has carried out a successful test launch of the Bulava ballistic missile by its new nuclear-powered submarine, Imperator Alexander III. The Russian Defense Ministry says the missile is designed to carry nuclear warheads. Launched from an underwater position in the White Sea off Russia's northern coast, the intercontinental missile hit a target thousands of kilometers away on the Kamchatka Peninsula in the Russian Far East. The 12-meter-long Bulava missile, which has an estimated range of around 8,000 kilometers, can carry up to 6 nuclear warheads. The Burai-class strategic missile cruiser is equipped with 16 Bulava missiles and modern torpedo weapons. The Russian Navy has 3 nuclear-powered submarines of the Burai class in service. In December, Russian President Vladimir Putin took part in a ceremony setting the Imperator Alexander III afloat. Amid Russia's ties with the West hitting new lows, President Putin has been pushing for the country to maintain its nuclear deterrent to counter what he calls growing security threats. The country's latest move comes days after Russian President Putin signed a law withdrawing Russia's ratification of the global treaty banning nuclear weapons tests. Russia said its de-ratification of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty is merely designed to bring the country into line with the United States, which signed but never ratified the treaty. As per Russian diplomats, Moscow will not resume nuclear testing unless Washington does.
Well, we are joined by Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayat, former senior diplomat, to get his perspective on this story. Ambassador Trigunayat, why is Russia testing ICBMs?
Well, Russia is considers itself as a superpower, which has the largest number of nuclear weapons at the moment. They were involved in disarmament for a long time now. Several treaties were signed, but many of them, as has been now come to become a focus, is that the United States had, even though signed the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, CTBT, but had not ratified it until now, since 1996. Besides, the USA had also walked out of several treaties in the past, as we have seen, which was, for example, the ABM Treaty, which was done immediately after the 9/11, which unilaterally was revoked. The Bush also went out of the treaty. Recently, we have seen the Intermediate Nuclear Range Treaty. They also walked out of it. CTBT, as it is, a little bit ineffective. And we are seeing that even though the two sides had agreed to reduce certain weapon systems up to the 1500, their regular verification and all that, which has now stopped since the war began and after the pandemic. So therefore, Russia has been trying to maintain its parity and some kind of a threat perception, a deterrence, essentially, so that it also has the same possibility of testing nuclear weapons if it wishes to, which, as you mentioned in your report, has already been done with the Bulava intercontinental ballistic missile, which has a range of about 8,000 to 10,000 kilometers. So that means that it can hit anywhere in the target. At the moment, I think they feel that if the escalation goes at any stage beyond the normal limits of the conventional warfare, then Russia is prepared to take any step. However, as we have seen that since 1990, Russia has not undertaken any nuclear test. United States did the last one in 1992. So these treaties were held irrespective because of the larger interest. But today things have changed completely.
Yes.
The geopolitics is very different.
Yes, that's what I was coming to, because we know you did mention that Russia has the largest arsenal of nuclear weapons, but clearly it's ceasing to be a deterrent, a big deterrent anymore, because I mean the largest holders of these things are not actually equal players in the world. In this context, I mean, how do you see things emerging? Because I mean, they have this largest arsenal, they can't do anything with it, and they're trying to make best use of having it.
Well, what with this one it says is that one could expect some more tests. And as you know, Trump wanted basically that he wanted to change the arsenal or upgrade it to that. Russia has also been doing it, and now it will be free to do that because he is the signatory to Russia, is signatory to the treaty, but not ratified. So de-ratification gives them that same freedom which the Americans have today. Now, it is also in a way, I mean, this is a false deterrence in my view, because it's a mutually destructive syndrome.
Yes.
If at all it happens.
Yes.
So you have this false sense of security. But at the same time, every country wants to keep an option open when you have those weapons, especially when you still consider yourself as a superpower in this game. And I think that this is precisely what President Putin is trying to do now, to tell the Americans that, all bets are off now, because their relationship is virtually at zero at the moment.
Indeed. But what impact will this have then on the support that Ukraine is getting from the West?
Well, the problem is that now the reports that are coming in are very different, that the Europeans, the Americans, everybody is probably telling the Ukrainians and Zelensky to come to some kind of an understanding with the Russians. Recently, the Russian defense minister has also said we are ready for talks, and there are these kind of reports that are coming in from Ukraine as well, even though Zelensky has denied them. But I believe that the problem is that the US can't open fronts on multiple fronts. And what we have seen is that there's this war which has stretched nearly about 2 years between Russia and Ukraine, and Russia or the West for that matter. The supplies of war material has really ebbed out. So it's very difficult to supply on different fronts. Okay. The US is also getting stretched, and now they are supplying everything. Their priority has actually become Israel-Hamas, and you see that they don't want that war to conflict it further. And even though they have deployed their naval assets in the Eastern Mediterranean, but they're definitely finding it difficult, even though we have seen that the debates are happening in the US to continue to support. But there is definitely, in my view, a key fatigue that has set in. And now it is very difficult for them to continue. So they're trying to find some way where this stalemate continues, and they find some way where this becomes like a war of inches rather than the major war.
So be that as it is, Ursula von der Leyen was in Kiev. And what do you think? I mean, do you see Ukraine joining the EU soon? Will that change things a bit for the Ukraine?
Well, what I had understood earlier is that in April, when there was a discussion and both sides, Russia and Ukraine leadership had virtually agreed to call off about a year and a half ago. This was an understanding that Ukraine can join the European Union, but they should not join NATO. So that was the major objection for Russia, was the security matters, not necessarily about they joining the European Union. So I think that would not be an unacceptable thing to Russia, to Moscow, if Zelensky joins the European Union, even though it is not always that easy, given the way the European Union's labyrinthine system works. Turkey is still in the wings, as we know. So there are many countries in Eastern Europe which are also there. And it is also not a monolithic organization. We have seen several of the countries are not agreeable to the European Union's foreign policy or the way it is being conducted. So she has come here. She wants to provide all the support. European countries overtly are doing that. But I guess that they are all stretched to the limit, because their own security will be compromised if they go beyond a point to find to go into this proxy war.
Ambassador Trigunayat, we are also seeing greater engagement of the United States and Australia with China. So do you think that it's going to impact China-Russia relations?
No, I don't think so. The China-Russia relations are a reality. The others are simply buying time, in my view. Now, Australian Prime Minister is visiting China because they depend a great deal on the Chinese market. And the Chinese also want to resume their supplies and exports and imports from there, and don't want. So everybody is trying to, play all sides at the moment. This is what. But the USA obviously knows that they can't open fronts with China as well as with Russia. It'll be very difficult for them to carry on. Everybody is stretched to the limit, and Biden will be now working harder towards his election. And so obviously there are these, decoupling to de-risking, and then trying to find some way of coexisting or working on these, issues. In fact, the Americans have also asked the Chinese to use their good offices in the Israel-Hamas war. Likewise, yes. China has been also working to deflate the Russia-Ukraine crisis as well. So I think that they are trying to use them in such a way so that the things remain below the lake, but overtly they'll continue to make anti-one country or the other statements that will go.
Yes. Yes, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayat. Thank you for your perspective. Let's take a look now at other stories making news around the world. Well, with an aim to revive Azerbaijan's peace talks with Armenia, the German foreign minister met the Azeri president, Ilham Aliyev. And the meeting in Baku, it took place on the second day of her four-day visit to the region, which is focused on bringing about lasting peace in the southern Caucasus. A prominent broadcaster in the Philippines was shot dead during a live broadcast of his show. The attack by unidentified gunmen was caught on the radio station's live stream on Facebook. Meanwhile, the president of the Philippines condemned the killing and ordered an investigation. As Storm Domingos hit France, gusty winds and incessant rainfall took place in western France is La Rochelle. Nearly 240,000 households were without electricity on Sunday because of storms Kiran and Domingos. So what's happened is that these two storms have caused 3 deaths and 9 people have been seriously injured. Britain's Prince William kicked off a 4-day trip to Singapore on Sunday. He visited the city-state's jewel Shanghai Airport Mall, where he toured the Rain Vortex indoor waterfall and met with local residents. William is the eldest son of King Charles and the heir to the throne, and is in Singapore for the annual Earthshot Prize, which awards $1.22 million to 5 winners developing solutions to environmental problems. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Australia-India Education and Skill Council meeting to be held in IIT Gandhinagar on Monday. And India completes a demolition job of South Africa in a one-sided World Cup encounter. Virat Kohli makes his birthday extra memorable. And members of South Africa's national rugby team have basked in victory parade celebrations after claiming the World Cup.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world, one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. The first Australia-India Education and Skill Council meeting will be held in IIT Gandhinagar on Monday. The meeting will be jointly chaired by the Education and Skill Ministers of the two countries. The visit aims to foster collaboration and participation in areas of education and skill sector. The discussions will follow on shaping future workforces, strengthening institutional partnerships in education, and driving research impact through internationalization. The 2-day program also includes a visit to the Deakin University and the University of Wollongong campuses in Gift City, Gujarat.
हमारे यहाँ इंडो ऑस्ट्रेलियन एजुकेशन में जॉइंट वर्किंग ग्रुप की मीटिंग है और इस दौरान भारत के शिक्षा मंत्री और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के शिक्षा मंत्री दोनों यहाँ पे आ रहे हैं। इस दौरान हम लोग एक एग्रीमेंट भी साइन करेंगे जो कि ऑस्ट्रेलियन यूनिवर्सिटी डेक्कन यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ है।
We're really excited for this very first ever meeting bringing together education and skills under one academic collaboration forum. Australia and India are great friends in education and skilling and research, and our relationship gets stronger and stronger. We look forward to the meeting of our honourable ministers tomorrow at IIT Gandhinagar, and we look forward to sharing with all of you the great news and the great work happening between Australia and India in education and skills.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you the sports news now. Well, India trounced the second-place South Africa by 243 runs to register their 8th win in the World Cup, this time at the Eden Gardens. The men in blue bundled out Australia for a paltry 83 runs. Ravindra Jadeja, the wrecker-in-chief, taking 5 wickets, and Virat Kohli hit his 49th ODI ton. Here's a recap.
In yet another remarkable performance by Team India, this time at Kolkata's Eden Gardens, India registered its 8-0 clean sweep at the ongoing edition of ICC Men's Cricket World Cup group stage encounter. In a clash that was seen as one of the most intense battles at this World Cup, South Africa trembled in the power play itself that started with Quinton de Kock's early wicket. South Africa got off to a disastrous start in the 327-run chase against India. Team South Africa were reduced to 35 for 3 at the end of first power play itself. Mohammad Siraj removed in form Quinton de Kock for 5, Ravindra Jadeja packed Temba for 11 and Mohammad Shami removed Aiden for 9. Shortly after this, the duo once again combined and removed Hendrik Klaasen and Rezi van der Dussen to reduce South Africa to 40 for 5 in just 13.1 overs. Talking about Team India, it was a double delight for the fans as Virat Kohli hit a century to equal Sachin Tendulkar's ODI century record and India ensured complete dominance over the tournament. Kohli's century led the way for India, putting up a mammoth total of 326 for 5 in 50 overs. India came out all guns blazing with Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill. The run rate slowed down as Keshav Maharaj kept a check on the batters throughout the middle overs after the openers fell. But Kohli and Shreyas Iyer soldiered through that phase. The stand finally ended on 134 of 158 when Iyer fell to Lungi Nagidi on 77 of 87. KL Rahul fell soon thereafter and Surya Kumar Yadav then played an entertaining cameo, smashing 22 in 14 balls, and Ravindra Jadeja then did the same. The all-rounder stayed unbeaten on 29 of 15, while Kohli at the other end got to his milestone. He finished unbeaten on 101 of 121. Since then, the Indian bowlers have started off doing what they do best. Team India is now all set to face Team Netherlands on 12th of November at M. Chinnaswamy Stadium. Naran Singh's report for DD India.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Team India's supreme run in the World Cup. He posted on X, "Our cricket team is triumphant yet again. Congratulations to the team for a splendid performance against South Africa. Great teamwork." They have also given a great birthday gift to Virat Kohli, who played a lovely innings today. An Indian Sports Minister, Anurag Singh Thakur, also poured his heartfelt wishes on Team India, and he posted, "What a win! Team Bharat has set the World Cup pitch ablaze and delivered an unforgettable performance. It was a boundary blitz and we bowled South Africa over, leaving them stumped and cheering our way to triumph. From power hitting to spin-tacular teamwork, our champs displayed cricket magic. Keep it up, guys. Let's bring the World Cup home." And Naran Singh now joins us from Kolkata with more on this story. Well, Naran Singh, the sports minister couldn't have put it better. But, you know, I mean, one asked, was it a good, it's such a one-sided match. Was it a good toss to win?
Definitely the pitch was difficult to play, Mark, whether, but also the pitch has something even for the fast bowler and also the pace, also the spin bowlers, because, but the thing is that the way the Indian bowlers bowled in a disciplined way and the way the Indian batsmen applied themselves, even they were saying that they were not hoping such score on this wicket, because the way the Indian team is right now gelled, the way they are playing, the way there is a good vibes in the team, the way they are backing each other. Yesterday also when we saw the practice session, there was a good, we can say, mood in the camp. The players are just also without any pressure. They were lightly talking to each other, training, and they were happy. And it is clearly visible in their performance
so
also when
teamwork.
The team is in good mood. When
Narayan, also let's
teamwork.
Yeah, if we look at Virat Kohli, I mean, it's a great day for him. It was his birthday. He's equaled Sachin's record. He came so close twice in the past. I mean, he just ended with 101 runs. So, I mean, he just about made it in the end. He had slowed down towards the end. People were getting a little worried.
True, if we take a look at the way he batted, he's a modern day great. The most important thing is that after Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill were out, there was a need of a big partnership, and exactly what we call the way Kohli and Shreyas Iyer batted and give a big partnership to India, and that helped a lot. The big thing is that it was not an easy 100 for Virat Kohli, because the condition was very good for the, you can say, the bowlers also, the way they were bowling and the way Keshav Maharaj was bowling. So the way Kohli applied himself, that is a great thing. He was not relied on force or the boundaries or the sixes. The way he changed the strikes, they were rotating the strikes, is a big thing. It's not all about hitting the big shots. It's all about taking the match away from the opponents. He exactly did the same thing. That's why Virat Kohli is a modern day great, Mark.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Narayan, for joining us with an update. Fantastic win for India. Clearly, the Indian team is on a roll. And for Indian fans, this is just spectacular. Great batting and great bowling and great fielding. That's what you want from your team. That's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lin. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.